We're ready when you are.
Okay, how many do we have? Okay.
145.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all for being here today. Before we begin, please join me in a moment of silence for all victims of racism, bigotry, intolerance, violence, and for our nation's needed change and healing. Thank you. I hope you're all staying safe and well, and I hope you had a meaningful Juneteenth and a great Father's Day weekend. Belated Happy Father's Day to all the fathers in our community. I miss all of you so much and greatly appreciate your being here today. Today I'd like to speak about three major topics, and then I'd be happy to entertain questions, comments, and address any other issues that you might like to discuss. I'd like to begin by offering an update on our budget, which has now been approved for fiscal year 2021. Then I'd like to comment upon our continued planning for a gradual return to on-campus operations beginning this fall. And then finally, some continued discussion about Black Lives Matter, issues of racism and intolerance, and outstanding meetings and work over the past several weeks by members of our President's Advisory Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So I'd like to cover those three pieces, then open it for conversation about these and other topics. I know the return to campus issues are very important to many of us, well, they are to all of us. So we want to answer all questions and hear all points of view. First, let me provide an update on our budget and the work we're doing to navigate the financial challenges of the pandemic. So since our last meeting, the Board of School Estimate of Hudson County Community College met on Thursday, June 16th, and I'm very pleased to share that the meeting was very positive and the board approved the college's fiscal year 2021 budget request. The county's 2020-21 appropriation to Hudson County Community College represents an increase of nearly $1.9 million, or 11.6% over this year. And this completes our FY 2021 budget, which the Board of Trustees approved at their June meeting. This is really phenomenal support, and it's on top of 2 or 3 years of really significant additions to our funding by the county. And as a result of the county's appropriation increase, I'm really, really delighted to say that we're not planning any staff layoffs at this time, and we're continuing to adhere to all the principles of our budget planning process. And these include reducing administrative and operating expenses in all areas of the college, including a hiring freeze, travel freeze, and non-essential spending freeze, keeping all employees whole to the fullest extent possible. Again, no layoffs planned at this time. Very importantly, honoring all contract provisions with internal unions and external service providers and supporting our confidential employees with a 3% salary increase beginning on July 1st. Also ensuring that financial measures taken do not have a negative impact on enrollment, and applying federal CARES Act and other available one-time funding to areas of pandemic-related expenditure increases and revenue shortfalls in order to close any remaining budget gaps. So we celebrate these outcomes, and I thank all of our HCCC community members for working together to make these outcomes possible, with sincere thanks to County Executive DeGeese and the county's Board of Chosen Freeholders for their steadfast, enduring support of Hudson County Community College. Yet, in spite of this good news, we continue to face many financial challenges and unknowns. These include a 50% fourth quarter cut to our fiscal year 2020 state funding allocation. The governor's recommended 100% cut in July through September state appropriation to all of public higher education, and a yet unknown fiscal year 2021 state budget and appropriation. We projected, on the basis of this information, we projected a 50% reduction in state appropriation through the next fiscal year. It could wind up a bit better or even worse than that. This is a budgetary challenge that is having a significant impact on our efforts to balance our budget. And second, while enrollment in our summer sessions is up a bit, our fall enrollment remains down over 20%, almost entirely attributed to a decline of new students. We're leaving no stones unturned in our efforts to recruit and retain students, thanks to the dedication of our entire college community and the phenomenal leadership of our colleagues in enrollment services. But nevertheless, our approved budget projects a 20% reduction in enrollment through the next fiscal year. Again, it could wind up better or even worse than that. Everyone, all of us across the college, plays a role in addressing this enrollment challenge, which is about both the recruitment and, very importantly, the retention of our students in this time of crisis. So the projected reductions in tuition revenue and state appropriation alone account for an $11 million gap between revenue and expenses in our upcoming fiscal year 2021 budget. Our approved budget closes that gap with various one-time funds available to us, coupled with additional pending funding at the federal level through the CARES Act and other grants intended to address pandemic-related cost increases and revenue shortfalls. So while we're very pleased to be navigating these challenges while avoiding layoffs and honoring all of our contracts, we must be ever mindful of the fact that we're using one-time funds to address structural deficits. It will be vitally important that our enrollment and our state appropriations stabilize and grow between now and fiscal year 2022. Otherwise, we will have a serious structural deficit in fiscal year 2022 and possibly sooner if circumstances worsen outside of our control. So in fiscal 22, we won't have federal CARES Act funding and other one-time funds to close the gap. So I just wanted you to be aware of the whole picture, and like all things related to the pandemic that I think we're all experiencing, you often have a mix of good news and challenging news and also unknowns. But we're getting through it together, and the immediate outcome is one I think that we can all be grateful for and thank one another for, because it truly takes a village. We're going to continue to be fully transparent about these issues, since all of us play a critical role in our ability to stabilize and grow in the future. And currently, Vice President Nicholas Chevrolotti and I are advocating financial support for HCCC and our state's community college sector with all members of our state legislative delegation. I've submitted an op-ed to the Jersey Journal. I think it just appeared in the Hudson Reporter and other media, as a part of the overall strategy of the New Jersey Council of County Colleges advocacy for 2020-21 state funding. Last week, President of the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, Aaron Fichtner, and Legislative Advisor Lynn Nowak joined Nicholas and me in a meeting with Senator Sandra Cunningham, who chairs the New Jersey Senate Higher Education Committee and serves as Vice Chair of the Senate Budget Committee. Also recently, Executive Vice President Eric Friedman and Vice President Veronica Zeitner submitted information requested by the New Jersey Office of the Secretary of Higher Education that will be used to allocate additional federal pandemic funding through the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, and I thank them for their leadership. It was an onerous task. We expect to be notified about and receive our allocation by the end of June. So that's the budget. Next, I'd like to discuss new state guidance associated with a gradual return to on-campus operations and our continued planning for fall and beyond. Late last week, Governor Murphy and Secretary of Higher Education Zakiya Smith-Ellis announced guidance and an executive order pertaining to conditions for beginning a gradual return to on-campus instruction and operations throughout New Jersey post-secondary education. Each of New Jersey's post-secondary institutions will be required to submit a reopening plan to the Office of the Secretary of Higher Education at least 14 days before opening campus facilities to staff and students. OSHE and healthcare professionals will review our plan and will receive suggestions and feedback. We will be required to demonstrate adherence to specific guidelines for screening protocols, social distancing, and other requirements in the plan. The guidance is entirely consistent with our HCCC fall planning that has been underway, and this is planning that focuses on safety and student success. As I shared in a June 1st letter to our college community, we've been planning to offer most fall courses either online or remotely, coupled with diligent planning to continue to improve the quality of the online and remote experience for everyone. Consistent with state guidance, we're planning a focused offering of face-to-face instruction in the fall using safety measures such as social distancing as recommended or required by the healthcare community, and in some cases using hybrid and or alternate timing scenarios to limit the number of people in a physical space at any given time. With fewer courses offered on ground in the fall, we're able to assign more space for social distancing in our face-to-face instruction. I think, just to give you some context, Dr. Friedman shared with me just a short while ago that at the moment our fall anticipates about 1,200 course sections. 2/3 of those are planned for remote delivery. The other third is split between online and on-ground. So the vast majority of our instruction will be offered remotely or online. Similarly, we're evaluating which student support services and operations will return on ground, early. Most fall instruction and likely most services will continue to be offered remotely, as I said, but safety and student success have and will continue to be the primary considerations in our planning process. We'll respect all safety concerns for on-ground instruction and operations while remaining focused on the academic and pedagogical needs of our students, informed by our faculty and academic leaders and all members of our college community. So things like nursing and health sciences, clinical lab instruction, culinary instruction, and others are now being planned for on-ground delivery with lots of work yet to be done. Our Return to Campus Task Force continues its work in 5 areas of planning and will now draft our reopening plan for submission to the Office of the Secretary of Higher Education. I thank RTC Task Force co-chairs Lisa Doherty and Heather DeVries and all members of the task force for their dedicated and outstanding work. And I've asked Lisa and Heather to speak about the development of our plan if they would, so I'm going to turn it over to them now.
Thank you, Dr. Reber. This is Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to start off by giving a brief overview of some of the more specific details contained in the Secretary's Guidance and Executive Order 155, and then Lisa will follow up with details about HCCC's return to campus planning efforts to date. Both Executive Order 155 and the Secretary's Guidance prioritize the health and safety of students and employees at New Jersey's institutions of higher education. The Secretary's Guidance provides guidelines regarding what conduct is permitted for various dimensions of campus life, including instruction, student support services, computer labs, library facilities, transportation, and on-campus food service at each stage of the Governor's 5-stage plan. As we know, New Jersey is currently in Stage 2. High-level takeaways from the Secretary's Guidance include that generally some on-campus presence is permitted in Stage 2, with increased activity permitted in Stage 3. Across stages, all on-campus activity must adhere to required health and safety protocols. Other key takeaways include instruction such as labs, clinical rotations, technical and hands-on instruction is permitted to resume in Stage 2, with most in-person instruction permitted to resume in Stage 3. Libraries are not permitted to operate beyond curbside pickup, and computer labs remain closed in Stage 2. Libraries and computer labs are both permitted to operate with reduced capacity and additional health and safety protocols in place at Stage 3. Student services are permitted to resume operation with reduced capacity and additional health and safety protocols in place starting in Stage 2. And finally, on-campus food services may only be grab and go in Stage 2 with outdoor dining permitted. Indoor dining is permitted in Stage 3 with limited occupancy and adherence to all health and safety protocols. Across stages and dimensions of campus life, the following health and safety actions are required by institutions. The use of face coverings or masks by all students, faculty, staff, and visitors. Implementation of a regular cleaning and disinfection schedule. Regular hand washing or use of an alcohol-based sanitizer by all students, faculty, staff, and visitors is expected. Regulation of the capacity of public spaces through social distancing, and maintenance of an adequate inventory of supplies. As Dr. Reber mentioned, institutions must submit a restart plan to the Secretary of Higher Education at least 14 days prior to the institution resuming on-campus activity of any kind. The Restart Plan also requires institutions to develop strategies for compliance with the health and safety protocols listed in Governor Murphy's executive order, including training for students, faculty, and staff regarding sanitization and social distancing practices, frequent health screenings of students, faculty, staff, and visitors, establishing COVID-19 testing and contact tracing protocols, and providing alternate arrangements such as remote teaching and learning or flexible work for individuals who are unable to participate in in-person instruction or on-ground work. HCCC's Return to Campus Task Force looks forward to providing leadership for the completion of HCCC's Restart Plan, and we look forward to also receiving input and feedback from all members of the college community as we craft this plan. At this time, I will turn it over to my RTC Task Force co-chair, Lisa Doherty, to discuss HCCC's planning to date. Lisa?
Thank you, Heather, for that very good synopsis of a very long document. We have posted, in the spirit of transparency, or for those that have not clicked through the communication, on the RTC landing page, which I will give you in detail later, the entire Restart Plan. So we encourage you to read that and become familiar with it as we develop our college plan. So since reviewing the executive order and the guidance from the Secretary of Higher Ed, the task force has been really hard at work. It's only been a few business days since we actually received this guidance, but they are working very hard to turn the guidance into action. We do not have answers for every single bullet point yet, but I promise you we will have them as we develop our plan and, of course, before we step a foot back on campus. On the RTC landing page, which is www.hccc.edu/return to campus, we are posting updates and we'll make public everything that we possibly can in the beginning. So here are the developments so far in summary. Human Resources, which is headed up by Anna Klopitsky and Amala Ogburn, they are identifying those high priority departments that will return to campus perhaps sooner than others. The majority of staff, as per, will continue to work remotely. So cabinet members are working with their managers and supervisors to determine which departments will move back sooner, and likely in not a complete capacity, but some sort of limited or rotating capacity. We are committed to accommodating colleagues who have at-risk health factors or personal issues that would prevent them from returning to campus. So please reach out to your supervisor to discuss those. Again, most will continue to work remotely, so this will be a limited number of people. And then we are very much committed to providing training for all faculty, students, and staff for all new protocols, including the mask requirement, and also protocols for non-compliance with the mask requirement. So certainly we will have a process in place if there is a faculty, staff, or student who is not complying with masks, unless they have a health condition preventing them from wearing a mask. Academic affairs and teaching and learning, as Dr. Reber stated, 2/3 of our classes will be remote in the fall. In stage 2, we are permitted to offer instruction for labs, clinical rotations, technical and hands-on courses, and that is in the process of being planned. Stage 3, which we have no reason to believe we will not be in stage 3 by the fall, but we are not officially yet, does expand the ability to offer most instruction on ground if we chose to. So we have identified space on campus that can be flex space that allows for larger groups if we had a need for that. And Ilya and his team have studied every single classroom on the campus to determine how many students can be in the classroom while maintaining social distance. That study has been posted to the RTC landing page, so you can see every classroom on both campuses and how many students can be accommodated. Again, student success is at the heart of everything that we're doing. The schedule has been updated for the most part. There are some changes still forthcoming, but students, faculty, and staff can view the schedule on the website, and we are really being very clear with students in terms of choosing their classes, that there are 3 ways that classes will be offered. We sent them a very simple illustration yesterday, an infographic that marketing completed for us, that tells them there are 3 options. Fully online, meaning fully online, the typical ON classes. Remote, meaning the class will meet at the scheduled times but will meet remotely. And then on ground, that some part of the instruction will take place on ground, with the other part of the instruction being online or remote. So we're trying to be as clear and concise as we can to students for the fall semester. Campus life and student support services. The Student Affairs and Enrollment team is trying to determine which services are most needed by students in the return to campus, and we are going to be looking to possibly use the Student Center to establish a makeshift one-stop so that we can apply proper social distancing, but allow students who do want to see someone in person to do so in advance of the fall semester. So we are still encouraging all students to access our remote student support services, and they will remain active during this pandemic, but we are trying to identify the high priority services like registration, financial aid, certainly testing, advising, admissions, so that students may need some in-person access on an appointment basis. Once we enter stage 3, we will have an opening plan for our libraries and computers. Well, we'll have the plan far in advance, of course, but libraries and computer labs for safe protocols there. We know students really need those to be successful. And campus meetings, for the most part, will be continued remotely. The Health and Safety Committee, they have a very big responsibility in terms of determining our screening protocols. So we have representatives from our nursing and health sciences division on the task force who are exploring different options, everything from screening to temperature taking. We became aware recently of a device that actually is more of a thermal video when students and faculty and staff enter buildings. So we will have a very effective and efficient screening process as people enter the buildings. We also will have our testing and contact tracing protocols in place should someone test positive for the virus. We're exploring several different options in this for this. So that committee will have more guidance forthcoming, and we're looking into many, many different options, like I said. If students, faculty, or staff become ill due to COVID-19, we will hold them harmless in terms of utilizing sick time and making sure that absences do not count against them. And because masks will be required on campus, we will be providing masks if someone should come to a building without a mask. We hope that most people will have their own masks, but we certainly will be providing them. Space and facilities, Ilya and his team and Jack have done a wonderful job of preparing a plan to make sure that all of the classrooms, like we said, are established for social distancing. He is about to start the study of all of the office spaces to make sure that different departments, should they return, are able to adhere to social distancing. The supply chain has loosened up quite a bit, so we are confident we will have all of the supplies that we need in terms of paper towels and hand sanitizer and soap and gloves and wipes and all types of disinfecting products, and they will make sure to keep that inventory strong on campus. The water is being tested and to make sure it's ready for us when we go back, with hot water available at all hand washing stations. And we are ordering a plethora of signs in multiple language to make sure we are communicating proper hand washing and sanitation, traffic flow, social distancing, making sure, wearing a mask, all of the messaging that we want students, faculty, and staff to be aware of. There will be signs in all areas of the campus. Like I said, the capacity study is complete. The office study is about to commence. And that is our update right now of the task forces. I can promise you that they are very hard at work in between our meetings. We meet every single Monday, and they meet separately from our major meetings. We welcome your feedback. We want to make sure that this plan has a lot of input and feedback and suggestions from the campus community. So please feel free to email our email address, return@hccc.edu, with your questions, suggestions, concerns, and we certainly will address them all. And I want to thank the task force, especially the leaders of the subgroups, for all of their hard work. This is a really important undertaking. Everyone is very, very passionate about it, and we are not taking lightly our responsibility to make sure that we return to campus in the safest way possible to help our students be as successful as they can be. So thank you for the opportunity to give the update.
Thank you. Lisa and Heather, this is phenomenal work. Clearly it's phenomenal work, and we thank you and all members of the task force for your true dedication and going way above what anyone could expect of of you, and we are enormously grateful. I do want to note our task force is 30-plus people strong. We have faculty representation on it, but I have been asked if it's possible for other faculty to participate. If they do wish to, it's absolutely possible. And I would invite you to talk to Heather or Lisa. So finally, I want to wrap up my comments and then open it to robust conversation. I would like to discuss our college's engagement and commitment to addressing continued racism and intolerance in our society. Following with our special town hall meeting pertaining to continued racial injustice and violence against members of our Black and African American community and all communities, our President's Advisory Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion held 2 open discussion forums and a meeting of PAC Day members over the past 2 weeks. PAC Days truly engaged the entire campus community in the sharing of ideas and plans for collective action, including speakers, panels, and other programs, DEI educational and professional development, inclusion of DEI content and curricula, building and strengthening community partnerships and advocacy, and others. I thank PAC Day co-chairs Lalisa Williams and Eurus Pujols and all members of PAC Day, also over 30 strong, for their engaged and inspirational work, and I have asked Lalisa and Eurus to provide an update for us today.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Eurus. As Dr. River mentioned, you know that in response to the horrific murder of George Floyd, which up to that point was the last televised case of an unarmed man a black man losing his life in the hands of the police, Dr. River held the special town hall meeting on Thursday, June 4th. The town hall provided a safe space and platform for our community to share our feelings and perspectives. He also kind of set up the first step in our response to that. Dr. River mentioned the President's Advisory Council having, or PAC Day, we're going to be referring to it as PAC Day in this call, having a meeting on the same day, making sure that we're quick on the response to talk about our plans. Again, Dr. River highlighted the areas that we identified that we wanted to focus on. Diversity, equity, and inclusion in the curriculum, partnerships with the community, and also the empowerment component to provide the college community with information related to public discourse, policy making, and taking legislative action. The open forums were held. The first one was Wednesday, June 10th. The second one, Monday, June 15th. They were very engaged, and the whole, members of the community participated and provided greater input. We also wanted to make a point that as we continue to move forward with a lot of these programs and steps, if you have an idea of something related to diversity, equity, and inclusion that you feel we can implement, or maybe something that you would personally like to lead, please contact us. Because this has been a group effort since day one, and we want to make sure that it continues to be. Now, before we go on to mention everything DEI related that is taking place at the college, we want to thank and acknowledge our partners. Lilisa and I are here today representing and speaking for PAC Day, but most of the heavy lifting is a community effort, and it's accomplished in collaboration. So we wanted to thank the Office of Human Resources, Student Life and Leadership, Academic Support Centers, Faculty and Staff Development, the Academic Divisions, Cultural Affairs, Center for Teaching, Learning, and Innovation, that is Hudson Campus, Student Government Association, the libraries, Cultural Affairs, and the list goes on and on. And again, we apologize if we left anyone out or anything out. And, this has been a group effort. And now, we would like to list some of the accomplishments that we've been able to implement with the collaboration of our partners. We have Same, Different is a dialogue. It's prompted by very specific questions, but that open dialogue series is open to students and staff. What's Up is a very similar dialogue series that is open to students who want to talk about it. It's like an easy flowing unguided discussion series that is open to employees. We have the Student Corner that is organized and hosted by the Student Government Association. The Center for Teaching, Learning, and Innovation is currently holding an excellent book talk on the title Why Fragility. The first 2 chapters were discussed last week. This Wednesday, chapters 3 and 4 will be the focus. We encourage you all to read the chapters, these 2 chapters, 3 and 4, if you can, and to attend. Also, the Office of Human Resources continues a series of staff development workshops offered to employees by employees. On June 25th, they're offering the workshop titled Socially Queer. And again, we encourage all of you to participate. With that said, I would like to turn it over to my co-chair, Lilisa, so she could tell you some of the items that we're planning and that will be coming down the lines very soon.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Eurus, for that, and thank you, President Reber, for inviting us to share at this town hall. So some of the upcoming events that we are planning in the works. First of all, we are trying to develop a new series called Our Stories, and we are hoping that people will be able to sign up for that and tell us your story so that they can be shared with all the colleagues and the college community. We believe that as people hear the stories of others of how they have come through their journeys in life with their experiences, that it will be inspirational for others. Also, we are planning a series of workshops that deal with diversity and inclusion and workshops that deal with unconscious bias and how to handle our own and those that we work around. We're also planning 2 events, and I want to give you those dates. One is there's going to be a student life and leadership. They're hosting a panel entitled Students in the Movement, and that's going to happen on July the 7th. Then there is also going to be a virtual vigil, and that's in order to commemorate the lives that we have lost to racism, hate, and injustice. That event is scheduled for July 9th. We are also working with Dr. Nicholas Charavalati in scheduling additional panels with elected officials and other community leaders to discuss things like policy and legislative changes and what we can do to get involved. A great emphasis has been placed on the diversification of the curriculum, and productive conversations are happening at various levels of the college. I believe this is all for now, Dr. Reber. We thank you for having us here today, and we just ask that everyone please stay tuned as so much more is yet to come. Also, please keep in mind that most of these events came about as a reaction to George Floyd's death and the social injustices that dominated the public conversation. As you send us your suggestions and your ideas, we have one specific subcommittee that's a part of PAC Day that is tasked with creating and aligning programs, training, and infrastructure, and they are coordinating your input so that we can have a centralized implementation and strategic alignment. This is our update for now. We thank you, and we ask you to continue to support us, and we do appreciate all your support and all your suggestions. And you can send any comments or suggestions to pacday@hccc.edu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eurus and Lavisa, and all members of the President's Advisory Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and all members of our college community. Last Thursday, I attended the quarterly meeting of the American Association of Community Colleges Commission on Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity, where we met with AACC President Walter Bumfus, AACC Senior Vice President for Government Relations David Bain, and others, and we're sharing nationwide best practices and approaches to current and enduring challenges and opportunities across the nation's community colleges in all areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So thank you all for your patience as we provided those reports about areas of great importance and priority. We are now happy to open the meeting to your comments, questions, and perspectives, and for our collective discussion. Lalisa, Eurus, Heather, and members of our cabinet join me as facilitators for the conversation. Willie, could I ask how many are on the call at this point?
241.
Okay, wow. So we've got lots of folks on the call. If you'd like to speak, please press 10, and Willie Shirer is here to help with any technical difficulties. We really appreciate your help today. Willie, it takes there's usually a little bit of lag time between each question, so if you would just bear with us, and we now open
now in question and answer mode. To alert the speaker that you have a question, press 1, then 0.
So questions and comments. I know they're coming.
Hi, Dr. Reber, Sharon Benjamin. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information. As you were giving the information for the budget, you mentioned hiring freeze, no layoffs, and I think I missed something about, I'm not sure about the adjunct pay.
Okay, so yeah, we're honoring the adjunct contract as well. So no changes in what were negotiated in the last CBA. We are, still building the fall schedule, but our adjuncts will receive their pay according to the CBA as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet. Others? Comments or questions? Or celebrations?
Hello, can everyone?
Hello? We're not hearing you. Are you on mute by chance? Hello?
Oh, I have a question. My name is Timothy Moore. I'm with the library. So the coronavirus task force, is there something in writing about people who want to wear masks and they're told to take them off? Like an example of this would be if student or staff were saying, take your mask off, I can't understand you. Or when the virus settles down and these kind of regulations are relaxed.
Well, okay, so right now the guidance is clear. Everyone must wear a mask unless there's a particular health issue that an individual has that precludes their wearing a mask. Everyone is required to wear a mask while indoors. So we will, of course, be requiring that, and we'll have a protocol for enforcing it. Now, you raise a good question. So, this is our plan for the beginning of our gradual return to campus. What will be happening is we'll all be experiencing changes over time in our community, in the in the metrics, but we just can't anticipate what those will be. So we're going to have exercise patience as we navigate future issues. I'm sure we will at some point reach what many, including the governor, are calling a new normal. He, I think, attributes that to the time when there will be a vaccine. So between now and then, we will, as a community, be navigating changes. So if there is a relaxation of the mask requirement, we'll be talking together with one another about how we want to respond to that. We're required to do certain things, but that doesn't keep us from exercising other safety measures as we choose. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, the challenge we have in all of this is, there remain unknowns, and we have to make judgments as we go based on the information we have. Lisa and Heather or anyone else, would you add anything to what I said?
No, I think, this is Lisa, I think what you said was exactly right. It's required. So in the training that we develop, we're going to have faculty and staff training through HR and student training through student affairs. We'll cover some of those, like what to do when scenarios. So if someone were to say to me, I can't understand you, can you take off your mask? I would say, well, no, I'm required to have the mask. Let me speak up, or let me find a different way to communicate. But the masks are going to be required, and we will have protocols for noncompliance, like I said. It will be part of our policy in the fall. And then once it relaxes, we'll adjust as needed.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm receiving a text that some attendees don't know how to what to do in order to ask a question.
Hi?
So just, so my understanding, am I correct, Willie? They just need to press 10.
Yes, that's correct.
And then what happens, Willie?
Just for the benefit of everyone on the call, if you press 10, you'll then be in a line. Basically, it forms a queue so that Willie can grant you access. And there is a little delay. So, but if you press 10 now, you'll get on that queue.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Did we have someone else on the line?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon for all. My name is Ernestina Vargas. I am a library associate. I work mostly at North Hudson Campus Library. I would like to know if has been contemplated to administer the antibody test to returning workers, because I believe that it will be important for us workers and for the situation to know if we have antibodies, since I heard that the specialist says that it seems that those who have it do not get infected again, and neither do they infect others. So I don't know if you have the answer to that.
I would ask.
Dr. Reber, this is Nicholas.
Yeah.
If I can just, I appreciate the question, and I know this has been a topic of conversation over the past several months. Just so that you're aware, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has recently provided guidance that requiring the antibody test would not be permitted under the EEOC guidelines. This is obviously subject to change, but at this point that's not being worked into the plan because it wouldn't be permitted under the Equal Employment Commission's guidelines.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the answer.
Sure. Does anyone else want to comment on just the safety and screening protocols in terms of where we are with those?
This is Lisa again. I mean, I think our Kathy Strangelo, Kathy Smith-Wenning, Carol Fasano, Sirhan Abdullah, we have many representatives from nursing and health sciences. I know that's their highest priority. So we will have a really solid screening process, and then protocols for if and when someone tests positive and how to contact trace. But Nicholas, thank you for that insight. I didn't realize that was part of the EEOC guidance. And testing in general is a point-in-time result, and anything can change. So we'll have a protocol for it should we need it, but I don't think we're planning on testing people as a general rule of thumb. I would expect in the next week or so we will have more specific recommendations from the Health and Safety Committee of the task force, because I understand that is the number one concern of our faculty, staff, and students. So they're, I think, looking at different schools, what everyone else is doing, best practices, and researching what the best option is for us.
And the contact tracing will be done in partnership with a healthcare agency, correct?
Yes, with the Department of Health, I believe.
Department of Health. Other questions or comments?
Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Reber and everyone. This is Sirhan Abdullah from Nursing and Health Science.
Yes. Hi, Sirhan.
Hey, how are you? I just wanted to comment on the question for the, and I also want to make a suggestion as well on the antibody test and the person who just asked about antibodies. So according, to the CDC, sometimes when someone is infected, the timing of the test may not find antibodies in someone who has a current infection. So it should not be used to diagnose COVID-19. On a side note, I wanted to, rather than ask a question, just make a suggestion, on behalf of the Professional Association and our faculty. I know that safety is at the forefront of, all the decisions and all the new guidelines and things that are going on. What I wanted to say was, can we start to really, I know we just received the guidelines or the new recommendations, that we start to set goals and dates and have things done, and where the college community is aware that we really are ensuring everyone's safety. I know 2 weeks before, the classes begin in the fall, that we have to have all these things done. But as we move along, there's a lot that needs to be done. And I think with all the work that's being done in the subcommittees, I think we should have deadlines and goals at this point now, and that we should meet in order to ensure everyone's safety. And that was just a suggestion that I wanted to make.
Yeah, I agree with you, Farhan. We are waiting for the template. We're waiting for the template from OSHI. Once we get the template for the plan and we really know what needs to go into that, we will certainly be setting. And we're going to get this in, by the way, far before 2 weeks before the semester begins. Our goal is once we get the template, quickly as making sure it's thorough, and then we have the option of returning after that. But agreed, as soon as we get the template, I think there's going to be some very specific milestones moving quickly.
Yes, being a member of the Health and Safety Subcommittee on the task force, myself and all the other members, we had this discussion last week, and we said we're going to start to really set these goals and deadlines because we want to ensure everyone's safety. We don't want to wait for last minute. We should be very well prepared for a lot, to meet a lot of these goals. There's a lot of things on there, and that we also communicate it to the college community, so everyone, understands that this is being done and it's being implemented, and this is what it's going to look like, and so everybody understands that we're all safe. I mean, this is a concern that a lot of the faculty are having right now, is just to, that we should more maybe publicize a little bit more of what's being done. And I think moving forward, and now that we have more recommendations and guidelines, we could hopefully start to do that.
Couldn't agree more. That's definitely what we want to do. Now, some of you may not have seen it yet, but Lisa and Heather last evening sent the whole college community pretty much a pretty detailed list of everything that we have done and are doing. Pretty common. Yeah. And that's what we will continue to do. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Saran. Others?
Hi, this is Professor Imam from STEM Division. One question, it may be not as a question, rather a concern for the student. We see the update on many things, but what is going on for the work-study type of a student? Is there any update on that?
Update on work-study students?
Yes.
Can anyone help?
I feel like I'm talking a lot. This is Lisa again. I'm sorry.
That's
yes,
okay.
we will have federal work study in the fall. This question was just asked, and I passed it along to Sylvia. I believe it was last week. But yes, we will have work study students. Yes, it will look much different because we likely will not have positions in departments that may not be on campus. So we will be communicating more on that in the coming weeks. But if you have a need for federal work study students, we will certainly be able to accommodate you. And we want to find jobs for these students. This is part of their financial aid package, and we can't let them leave that money on the table. We have to find creative ways to employ them. So I would encourage all departments who have utilized federal work study students in the past to think about how you can employ them on a remote basis, because we want that program to stay healthy.
I appreciate that. That was my point, and actually it will help. We don't want those students to really not getting that advantage. I appreciate, Lisa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed. Other comments or questions?
Hi, this is Linda Miller. I'm a faculty member in the ESL department. Thanks for the opportunity. Hi, excuse me?
Sure. Hi.
Okay. Hi. Hi. So my question is, I'd like to piggyback on what Sirhan said in terms of faculty being able to prepare for whatever it is that is coming down the pike. And specifically to that end, I've read the guidelines, and there's quite a difference in stage 2 and stage 3. When Lisa was talking, she commented that there's no reason to think that we will not be in stage 3 by fall. So my first question is, well, what gives any of us reason to believe that that will be true? And secondly, is the RTC planning for that transition from stage 2 to stage 3, where there will be, maybe more classes will be allowed to be on ground? What if that switch from stage 2 to stage 3 were to come in the middle of the fall semester? What accommodations are you making for that? And I would just like to say, as a coordinator and a faculty member, that the sooner we know exactly what's going to happen, the better we will be able to prepare not only our own classes, but those that will be delivered by adjunct faculty. And I think it is in the best interest of students and faculty to act conservatively. In other words, if we can deliver remote instruction, whatever instruction we're giving, it should be consistent from the beginning of the semester until the end. Okay, thanks. I'll take my answer.
Thank you, Linda. These are very, very helpful, important questions. Let me start, and then I'm going to ask others to comment. So you're exactly right. The plan needs to, as defined by the Secretary, the plan needs to explain how we will transition from one stage to another, and not only in the direction of 2 to 3, but what if we have to go 3 to 2? Because there's, God forbid, there's an increase, there's a movement in the wrong direction. So the plan will do that. Frankly, most of what we're talking about wanting to do from the perspective of supporting students is going to require us to be in stage 3. When we submit our plan, we are submitting our plans for both stages, but we don't have to do everything we say we're going to do in the plan, but we can't do anything that isn't in the plan without getting the approval down the road. So the plan will outline how we would move from one stage to the next, but we'll still have the flexibility to be more conservative, or if we choose. I think most of our plan is going to be focused on stage 3, meaning that if we don't get there, we simply won't be able to do the things that that we're hoping we can do. Now, I will also say the governor said a week or two ago that he expects to be in stage 3 in a matter of weeks, not months. That's, I think, the reason we're believing that it's likely we'll be in stage 3 well before fall. The other thing I would just say is I don't think it's our intent, but I welcome other comments here. Once the fall has begun, I don't think we would want to move, to change direction and move from, let's say, 2 to 3. We wouldn't do that. That is disruptive. If we are in 3, but if we are in 3 and have to move back to 2, we will have to be able to make that transition just like we all did in the spring. We, of course, hope that doesn't happen. I open it to others for comments.
Hi, it's Eric Friedman. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
So I loved your comment about what we do should be consistent, and I think that speaks to the, changing mid-semester. I agree with Dr. Reber that if we were forced to, if we were running some things on the ground and we were forced to, we could go in the direction back, from 3 to 2 because we would need to. But I think if your students have arranged their child care, elder care, work schedules, all those things, and it's a course section that's running remote, I just don't think that there would be any real logic into shifting that in the middle of a semester. So really all the planning activity that I've been talking to Darrell and Deans about has assumed we're going to be in 3 based on those comments from the governor and some other indications. So we're assuming that we are going to be in stage 3.
With the possibility that we could have to go back to stage 2 if there is another wave in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, that looms above us all as a possibility. It's, obviously something that we wish we could control and predict. It is something, though, that we know that during the summer we should do everything that we can while we have this time in case that does occur. If there are some professional development opportunities, some trainings with the Center for Online Learning, some external things that we need to do, yeah, we should really get that done in the summer.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Hi, this is Jacqueline Galemos. How are you all?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I have a question. How about for those who don't show any symptoms? How is the school trying to, figure that point out? Because I know that there's a whole thing when students or faculty or staff come in and they show no symptoms at all. Necessarily, you don't have to have a temperature or anything else. How would the school go about with resolution to that?
Does anyone on the Health and Safety Subcommittee want to talk about that? Sirhan, Kathy, or Kathy? I mean, my answer would be they're going to be developing a plan for that. It's not laid out in stone yet, but do you want to talk about, Sirhan, what you've been discussing already?
He'll need to dial back in.
Oh, he's not on as a host. Is anybody from the Health and Safety dialed in as a host? Or so, Jackie, I would just say, and to all, I mean, we absolutely, that's a consideration. Temperature is only one of many symptoms, so the committee will be recommending how we screen for other symptoms and, looking to the CDC and Department of Health and what some of our sister colleges are doing. But we will have a screening process in place before anyone comes back on campus.
We will also likely be having folks fill out a questionnaire in advance.
Oh, hi, this is Kathy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Thanks, Kathy.
Oh, hi. Let me talk about the mask. I'm Kathy Smith-Wenning from Health and Safety. Here's the deal. The reason why you hear the CDC and you hear on the news that if everyone wears a mask, we can crush this virus because of asymptomatic spread. That is the only way we can help control the virus, because there's no possible way that we could test everyone when you all show up each day, and it doesn't mean anything because 2 days later you could contract it somewhere else. So for asymptomatic spread, as long as we're all wearing a mask, that's all we have. That's the only tool we have to work against this virus. I know it's frustrating. It sounds like that's not enough, but that's all we have. So we will be adhering to those guidelines. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. You bet. Other questions or comments?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Reba. I just want to echo you. This first and foremost, this is Roy Umano, one of the recruiters of HCCC. Yeah. So I just want to echo, as you made mention, in regards to the Father's Day, happy belated Father's Day to all of you. And I hope you all enjoy and had a relaxed day. Secondly, I just want to make a comment or two, if I can.
Sure.
As it relates to the 3 different facets or factors that you have discussed openly in regard to the budget, the returning, Operation Campus and the BLM, I just want to thank you for your diligence as well as the community college as a whole. But my question or my comment would be, I'm a little nervous because I was just doing my hair or whatever, getting ready for the 2 o'clock virtual meet with my supervisor, Matt, and the other ones. But in any event, I just wanted to make mention that you all are doing a fine job as it relates to the movement for Black Lives Matters. And HCCC has been doing a great job. I just want to thank Nakia Santos. I'm not sure if she's on the line. Amala and all those who actually been out there protesting and demonstrating, representing HCCC as a whole. Also, I just want to thank you all for encouraging the faculty and more so encouraging our students in regards to this uncertain present time that we are in as a whole, because I myself have lost a brother during this COVID, and not only that, I have lost other members of my family, and it's very hard. And as a adjunct instructor, I have been encouraged through my students who says, how can, you like an inspiration to us all because you come virtually as though, with your enthusiasm, your energy, and that means a lot. Even sometimes when I feel as though I want to not be in front of the camera, they make me want to be in front of the camera virtually. And so I just want to thank you, President Reber, for your consistency. That's a good term, consistency. That's key in what you're doing for us. And anyone else who have lost a family member during this time, my condolences. It gets better each day that we are, alive for those who have lost a loved one. And I could just go on and on and on. And the more I talk about it, the more I'm, the grieving process, it allows me to grieve. But again, I just thank every one of you that's on the line. I think it's over 200. So you all are doing a fine job, even as it relates to this COVID, as it relates to the mask. I'm just excited just to be a part of this community. I am a product. I'm an alum. I just love HCCC. And one thing I was great to hear, Dr. Reaver, was that you made mention that no one will be at this time losing their job or layoffs. So that's good to hear overall. But as I want to just state in regards to the Black Lives Matter, we as a community college is doing everything that we possibly can. I know that for sure, even as being an African-American Black woman, faculty, and a recruiter, a face of Hudson, we are doing an excellent job. So thank you all, and even for the time. So now I got to get back into my hair. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you. I'm sorry for your loss. I know I speak for everyone, and we will keep you and your family in our thoughts and prayers, and how fortunate we are to have you in our community and as a recruiter. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Hello, Dr. Reber. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, this is Joseph Gallo, the coordinator of theater and film. How are you doing?
Yeah. How are you, Professor?
Okay. Thank you for everything you guys and gals are doing. I've spoken to other administrators and faculty members at other colleges, and I want to say that when I hear their stories, I can honestly say that HCCC is actually really at the forefront and doing a wonderful job. So keep up the good work. I do have a question here, and it had started as a question and has morphed a little bit since I was listening to some feedback. You said before that once fall has begun, that we would not pivot away from what the plan is. But that sounds to me like we might pivot away. And, my initial question was about, when are the hardcore deadlines, or when can we start to begin, because there's, I don't want to say deadlines, but when the amount of work that we as faculty now have to do to prepare for, 3/4 of our classes being, remote and online is really I can't underestimate the amount of labor that is involved.
Yeah.
We picked up, mid-semester. We did it on the fly. I know I can't speak for everyone, certainly, but I know that a lot of things that I did worked. A lot of things I did didn't work. And now I have a complete, beginning of the semester to plan for. And I also have multiple classes that did not run in the spring and are now, going to run in the fall. And I have to begin, on day one, it's a day one plan. So, I mean, I don't want to hear that maybe, in late August or mid-August that we're suddenly not going to be face-to-face. I need to know a little bit more concrete that, no, we're going to be remote, and that's that, starting from this point on. And, my initial question was, will offices be open to instructors to come in to gather books, maybe just to get out from their homes and away from, the cramped quarters of, my wife teaching in one room, my daughter taking class in another room? When is the Center for Online Learning going to be fully available to help and us prepare moving forward? That's sort of, I don't know if that's a question, but it certainly is a concern. And, I can't speak for anybody other than myself, but that's how I'm, looking toward the, toward the fall semester. So I don't know if that's a question or not, but
no,
please feel free to riff on that.
No, thank you for that, and that's very helpful for clarification purposes. I think several of us are going to want to speak to this. I would just start by saying, our planning, which has been happening now for a while, has the overarching principles, which is what I have talked about, are to try to pinpoint sooner rather than later those things we would like to do on the ground if we're able, because it's important for students to maintain academic progress. And everything else that's going to be either remote or online, let's make that determination now. We don't have to deviate from that. Everything that we agree is going to be online or remote, we're not going to shift away from that. It doesn't matter how the stages change. Those things we can do, and we can plan for them now and use the time between now and when the classes start to make the experience better through professional development, Center for Online Learning, et cetera. So we're on the very same page. The on-ground piece, is important. What I've been encouraging is let's try to make decisions as soon as we can about what we want to do online. So we have, on the ground, because it's pedagogically or even for accreditation purposes necessary and important for students. And then let's spend our time, planning for social distancing and health and safety precautions, and also for staffing to ensure that we are able to deliver those. The only thing that would change in terms of on-ground instruction would be if we're in stage 3, we've started on-ground instruction just like the first part of the spring semester, and then circumstances require us to move back to remote. That's only going to be, we're talking on the ground right now between 100 and 200 sections out of 1,200. I think you can, if the decision's been made by you and the academic leadership that what you're doing for fall is going to be online or remote, that's not going to change. But I open it to others, please. Yeah.
And the question about offices, will they be available and open to instructors? I mean, I had to get the building open just so that I could the I-building open so I could come in and get my summer books. But now I have a whole other, round of books and materials that I need to gather for fall. And I'm wondering, is this going to be one-time access? Will there be access available for instructors to come in? What sort of, what is there any advanced thinking about that at all?
Can anyone help us with that?
Yeah, right now, until we do reach stage 3, a note to Jack Quigley is usually sufficient to get access to a building. I mean, once we have guidance on dates with Stage 3, then of course we'll be able to provide more open access to the buildings. But don't hesitate if you want to go into a building. I've been doing the same thing. I just give a day's notice ahead in case they have to reassign a safety officer to a building, for example.
Okay, thank you.
And this is Lisa. We can certainly add that to the plan. So like I said, we will put in this plan, and that means 14 days later we can begin to execute on the plan. Doesn't mean we will. So we can put something in there, faculty will have, access to offices as needed to get supplies. It doesn't mean you're going to work in there all day, but, and maybe you want to, and that might be okay too. I mean, when we bring back certain student services, it will be before Stage 3. We don't have to wait for Stage 3 for that, but it'll be in a very limited capacity. So I made a note of that. We'll make sure that's built into the plan, Joseph. That's a good point.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind some time away from my family, just saying.
I hear you. Preach.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Joe. Other questions or comments?
Hi, this is a comment. This is Archana here. Just for Center for Online Learning, thank you for letting me speak. I just want to say that we do have we have 3 or 4 workshops a week, every day of the week almost. And, I welcome faculty to attend it. It should help you in certain ways to plan for fall. And also we have a online orientation for remote faculty and a certification course for online faculty. So we're doing our best to support you, and please do feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you for the incredible leadership you've been offering. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Archana. Just a quick note, too, that we have hired an additional instructional designer, and it looks like we're in the final stages to have a candidate for the August board meeting for an additional hire in the Center for Online Learning. So we've created more infrastructure there, and we certainly have more hands on deck. So Joseph, if you do need one-on-one assistance, or any of the faculty members, if you've attended one of the online trainings and you just need more one-on-one assistance, let's get that matched up for you.
Hi, this is Lalisa, Director of Office. Director of Office of Faculty and Staff Development. So, Joseph, to the point about the professional development for individuals, for faculty members. So, yes, while there's all the training and development for online learning and for Canvas and the various aspects of Canvas with Center for Online Learning, but we're also here as a resource for you. So if you have any, specific needs for the types of training or development that you or any of the, and we are working on something more formal for adjunct faculty members as well, to be that other layer of support for them, almost in like a 24/7 kind of an atmosphere, so that whatever they're planning to do with their classes and the needs that they have to make sure they're able to, definitely execute excellent synchronous teaching for the fall, synchronous online teaching definitely for the fall. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. Other comments or questions?
Hi, Chris. It's Michael Frillies.
Hey, Michael.
Hi. Thanks so much for doing this. Always appreciate it. Let's see. I have some random concerns and then some questions. The questions, I've been scribbling these down here. They seem to be a little more negative than I want them to be, but let me state them nonetheless. So I guess, overall, I think I'm concerned about the kind of normalization that's been taking place, these larger issues outside of Hudson, but kind of normalization of death and illness concerns me. I mean, especially with kind of recent relaxations of protocols and increases in contamination. I mean, it kind of seems to enter a wild card for us about what we can expect as we move into this with relapses and things. You know, that said, I'd like to suggest, and I know you and I have talked about it with Eric also, that the governor's guidelines for us, I think, should be considered as minimal requirements.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the viral dynamics, you know, in specific locations or populations such as ours in Hudson County with our students are at a much higher risk and, you know, and have accelerated contamination rates. And specifically also, I mean, classrooms are highly contained spaces where we're doing continuous talking. So, I mean, again, I would like to suggest that, you know, we're much more vigilant than even the governor's requirements have for us, and our specifics are taken into consideration. I have several questions here. I'll make them brief. So, and again, these are a bit negative, but so will the college community be able to review the college's report to the state, the return report to the state? I know stakeholders are supposed to have input on that, and I'm just wondering how that will work. And what if the state rejects the college's return plan or the application? Is that a possibility, or is that really not? Is the state just going to say, look, as long as you give us something, you know, that sounds reasonable? But is there a thought there that the state could reject the plan? That if it's 14 days before the semester starts, what happens if those plans are not accepted? You know, what's our alternatives there?
Michael, can we stop and answer those and then come back to the rest?
Sure, thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay. So on that one, the state is not approving the plan, believe it or not. So
okay.
The state has said it is not our job to approve the plan. We will review it and ensure that you're addressing all the guidelines, and if we have concerns, we will let you know. But once we've submitted the plan, subject to any other feedback they give us, we can, if we choose, begin to follow through on any part of the plan within 14 days. So it will not be rejected per se. I want to I want to second your comment. I agree with you completely. Whatever the guidelines are minimum expectations. And I have been saying in our planning, you know, we, for example, with disinfection and cleaning of facilities, we want to do that professionally. Some folks are looking at having like hand wipes and things like that in buildings and asking people to wipe down their own workspaces or computers or what have you. We're probably going to do that, but only as an added measure. So we want to go. We want to have a professional standard. Similarly, I don't think we're required to provide gloves, but we're ordering gloves, things like that. So we do want to go above. What was the other one? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the other question.
Will the college community be able to review the college's report to the state, and with stakeholder input, how's that work?
Can Lisa or Heather help with that?
Sure. So we will post the template as soon as it's available, and we will ask that people review it and email the return@hccc.edu email address with their suggestions and you know, anything they'd like to see included in the plan. We hope that the task force is representative of the college community, and they will be crafting the plan. It will not be Heather and I writing it. It will be the task force writing it. But yes, we can certainly share it before we give the final submission. I don't think there's an issue with that at all.
And it will be on the website after it's submitted as well. Yeah. So, Michael, do you have other questions?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, just to follow up on something you said, because I think Catherine Wenning-Smith had mentioned that the best we could do is with masks. I kind of get what she's saying, but I think I would take issue with that. You know, I mean, I understand. I was listening to Dr. Fauci this morning speaking, and he was making some pretty, you know, powerful, important points, you know, about vigilance and stuff. He was saying, you know, like tracing is only as effective as our ability to quarantine people, and with populations becoming more, kind of free to move around and socialize, and those workforces, being out and kind of serving people now at restaurants, that tracing seems to be, less than effective as we might think. Nonetheless, there's a whole bunch of protocols besides wearing masks that I'm sure Catherine and the college, feels very strongly about wiping down and things that you've already mentioned. So the other one question is, is there a possibility, or what if the Health and Safety Subcommittee ultimately determines that it's not safe to return? I mean, is that a possibility? Is the college willing to accept that, or is that not going to be a function of the committee? And that's my last question. Thank you.
We're looking, these are all, we're really trying to do this collaboratively and in a way that seeks to the fullest extent possible to embrace all concerns and issues. The task force their charge is not to make decisions, but to make recommendations and to do planning. I think, from my seat, I would want us to do everything we can to make sure we're doing what we have to do to serve students. So I know in the area, for example, of nursing and health sciences and culinary, having an on-ground component is really, really important to those students being able to have the experience they need to have and being able to complete their program. So, obviously we wouldn't even do that if there were indications that we couldn't do it safely, but we're following the guidance of the healthcare community, and it appears that, there will be an opportunity for us to do the things we need to do, with attention to safety and health precautions.
I'm sorry. I say that because I know on that committee you have some, medical health professionals and stuff, and I think, those opinions kind of weigh heavier, at least for me and maybe some others. One very last thing, and that is, I was looking at that table that the governor provided or the state provided on the different stages and returns, and I'm just wondering if if the task force has thought about, and it's something I think that concerns people who are commuting from Queens, like I am, or the city, and using mass transit. There may be some conflict possibly with the school being at the stage where it can open up, and yet the transportation system not being safe for people to use. I noticed at that table that it's, I think, stage 2 still encourages people not to use the mass public transportation and stuff. So I'm wondering if there is considerations of possible disconnects with the different areas that have been sort of, stated here through the governor's desk.
Yeah. I'll take a stab and then invite others to comment. Most of what we're going to be doing in the fall isn't going to be on ground. So and this is sort of piggybacking on what others have said, to the extent that we can pinpoint what we expect or hope to do on the ground sooner rather than later, so that we can look at all of the ramifications of that. We want to do that. But I think our guiding principle is we, to the fullest extent possible, we don't want to require anyone to be on the ground if they feel that it's unsafe, if they feel they have a particular health concern, if they have a particular concern in terms of having to take care of family, if they are in a high-risk category. We want to work with those employees to allow them to continue to work remotely, and our hope is that we will be able to deliver the instruction we need to deliver to support students, and staff that with folks who are, who are comfortable doing it. And so that's our goal.
Okay,
would others like to comment on that? Yeah, any other comments on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Michael, thank you. Appreciate all those questions.
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Noemi Minaya Mendez. I'm an ESL instructor with the CE department at North Hudson, and I'm delighted to be at my first town hall meeting.
Oh, excellent. Welcome.
All righty, great. And I think these things are great. I'm new to technology, so this is a brand new world for me. I just wanted to jump in with a comment since it seems to be a recurring theme where everyone seems to be concerned, especially about the precautions that will need to be in place, hopefully when we return back on campus. In addition to being an ESL instructor, I'm actually a nurse. I'm a former nurse, if there is such an animal. I am a former nurse, and I've been giving a lot of thought about what our health specialist mentioned with the gloves and what the gentleman was commenting on, where he expressed concerns but it fell a little short. One of the things that comes to mind with this virus being a new virus and with us not being familiar, I'm long enough in the tooth to remember when the AIDS virus first hit the scene. Believe it or not, I was already in the medical field at the time. And because we couldn't identify those that were infected with this virus that we understood nothing about and we knew nothing about in terms of its transmission, it was a stroke of brilliance when we came up with Universal Precautions. And the basic tenet of Universal Precautions is that you make the assumption that everyone is infected, and you take precautions accordingly. So in other words, it's not about whether the person looks ill or has a fever or is coughing or is displaying outward symptomology, but rather that we treat it as if everyone is potentially carrying this virus. And this is where the medical field came up with this concept of universal precautions. In other words, everyone, children, women, men, people that are not within the common, epidemiology are treated the same. And this, of course, dampen the transmission of AIDS. So I'm wondering if we couldn't apply the same principle to COVID-19 in terms of, yes, not only the mask and of course the hand washing and so on and so forth, because although it seems like it isn't a lot intervention-wise, I can guarantee you that in the medical field, these practices remain a tenet of our basic nursing care and health care protocols. So I would invite everyone, the lay people as well as those medical professionals, to take a look at universal precautions used in the healthcare setting and see how maybe that can be applied universally as well. In our college system in terms of hand washing, once again, facial coverings, even transmission from surface to surface. These are simple principles that anyone can assimilate. You don't need a medical background to assimilate these universal precautions that are easily be applicable to most places, and that's all I wanted to add. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. That's very good. Can anyone in our healthcare community respond, or anyone else? I'm remembering some people have to dial 10. So I think our intent. Well, I'm asking this question. Am I correct that our intent would be to essentially do what was just suggested? That we want to. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Kathy. I'm sorry.
No, good. Thank you, Kathy.
I was just unmuted all the time here. She's absolutely correct in her assumption, and this is that I believe it's called standard precautions now, but it doesn't matter. Everything she said is true. Everything. in that we do assume everyone has the virus. That's the reason why we wear masks. We do assume everyone is a potential carrier. That's why we're disinfecting, cleaning, and wiping surfaces. We do assume everyone's a potential carrier. That's why we're increasing the airflow in the buildings, and we'll probably use, for Michael, just so you know, and thank you, I liked your comments. They were great. I took absolutely no offense at any of it because I thought they were awesome and on point. We are doing more. We will have something, well, we're trying to have thermal mirrors in place, and while temperature screening is not perfect, it's better than nothing, and we're coming up with a plan, and we've added that because the state was very minimalist. In other words, all they wanted was a self-report questionnaire, and that was it. So we're going way above and way beyond, at a significant cost, I may add. So thank you both. You brought up great points, and I think we are on the right page. Okay, that's it.
Fantastic. That's what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you. Others?
Hello, everyone. This is Sirhan Abdullah, and I finally get to say something. I pressed 1-0, and it's been a while.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to make a comment to what was just stated, and also there was a question prior regarding asymptomatic patients. So I think all this is going to come down to, what we set in place, the rules and the regulations and the strict guidelines that hopefully, HR is going to put in place. All we can do is minimize our risk, really. What all these safety practices is just to minimize our risk. Are we all at risk to contract this virus being on campus? The answer is yes. We all have that risk. And it's going to come down to safety practices and being able to adhere to all these rules and regulations and that are going to be set in place based on what's being recommended by the CDC. So the comment I really wanted to make is that as we're moving forward now is that we start to put all these regulations in place, and that we're prepared to really adhere by all these guidelines. And I keep saying strict guidelines because it's important. We're going to try to, as much as we can, minimize our exposure, our risk. And as far as asymptomatic patients, that's a challenge. It's a big challenge, and it'll come down to the health screening and asking questions along the lines of, have you come into contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19? And that's going to be very tough. But other than that, all we're doing is minimizing. There's no guarantee that we would not contract this virus, And this is it is a serious thing, and I could understand everyone's concern. But we need to really adhere to the hand washing, the hand sanitizer, the wearing the masks, and following these recommended guidelines and making sure that they're enforced and they're strict. And then that's really what I wanted to say. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Sirhan.
That was our final question.
Yeah. Hello?
That was the final question.
Oh, that's the final question? Okay. Folks, this has been incredibly helpful and important. Thank you for your participation. Sir, if I could ask Willie, what was the largest attendance if you were watching?
241.
That is just phenomenal. So thank you all for being here. Please don't hesitate to continue asking questions and expressing concerns. We will be involving everyone and sharing these drafts as we go, and want to be entirely transparent. I hope you all stay safe and well. Thank you for everything that each and every one of you does, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.